The bathroom door shook under his shoulder like a desperate animal trying to break free. Inside, water sloshed violently, crashing against porcelain, spilling over the tub's edge and onto the tile. Steam pushed through the cracks around the frame, thick and suffocating, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Then my sister's voice sliced through the noise, high, panicked, stripped of every ounce of confidence she'd ever had. "Stop! Stop! She's right there." My husband's fist slammed into the door again. The sound was deep and hollow, the kind that rattles more than would open this door. He barked. It was the same voice he used when he wanted the world to bend for him. The voice he used on waiters, on contractors, on anyone he thought should move faster or obey without question. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. That surprised me more than anything else. I reached out slowly and turned the deadbolt from the outside. It slid into place with a loud, final click. Then I rested my palm flat against the door. The wood was warm, damp, alive with frantic movement on the other side. It felt less like locking a door and more like sealing a coffin. Then I stepped away, walked down the hallway into the kitchen, my footsteps steady, controlled. My heart wasn't racing. It felt like it had gone quiet, like something inside me had shut down so I could function. I picked up my phone from the counter and scrolled until I found a number I never thought I'd need to call for this reason. Evan, my sister's husband. When he answered, I kept my tone calm, polite, almost casual, like I was ordering coffee or asking about dinner plans. "You better get over here now." There was a pause, a single beat of silence that stretched longer than it should have. He must have heard something in my voice because he didn't ask why. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't joke. "Where are you?" He asked, "At my house." Another pause. "I'll be there in 5 minutes." The moment the call ended, the pounding on the door stopped. Not because my husband had suddenly found shame, because he realized what was coming. But none of this had started with violence. None of it had felt dramatic at first. It had started ordinarily. I came home early that day because the grocery store had rotisserie chickens on sale, and at 32, that counts as a small victory. It was a Thursday. Safe, boring, predictable. The kind of day people build entire lives around without noticing. I'd finished my shift at the medical billing office. My eyes tired from screens and codes, my head already half thinking about dinner and laundry. I grabbed a bag of oranges, milk, and that chicken, and drove home replaying nothing important in my mind. My house sat on a quiet street, lawns trimmed into submission, porch lights waiting for dusk, neighbors who waved even when they barely knew your name, older couples who still walked arm in arm in the evenings like they were proving something. The kind of neighborhood where everything looks peaceful from the outside. That's why the second I stepped through the front door, something felt wrong. The living room was dim. The curtains were drawn even though it was still daylight. The air smelled sweet and unfamiliar. Perfume not mine. I paused just inside the door, keys still in my hand. The house felt occupied in a way it shouldn't have. Then I heard it got water running, the steady hiss of the shower down the hall. At first I thought maybe Mark had come home early, maybe he was sick, maybe he was trying to surprise me. I almost called out his name. Then I heard laughter, a woman's laugh, soft, familiar. My stomach tightened so fast it felt like my body had folded in on itself. A metallic taste filled my mouth. I didn't rush, I didn't panic. I walked down the hallway slowly, each step sounding louder than it should have in the quiet house. The bathroom door was cracked open. Light spilled into the hallway, warm and bright. Steam curled out in slow waves, like a warning I ignored. I pushed the door wider. Mark was sitting in the bathtub. My sister Tessa was in there with him. Her hair was damp, strands clinging to her neck. Her shoulders were bare. She was laughing like this was harmless, like it was a shared joke they'd never get caught telling. For half a second, my brain refused to translate what my eyes were seeing. It felt unreal, like watching someone else's life through a window, like if I blinked hard enough the picture would change. Then Tessa saw me, her smile dropped instantly, like someone had pulled a plug. Mark turned, and his face did something I will never forget. Not guilt, not shame. Calculation, like he was already sorting through lies, deciding which one might work best. "Hey, he said quickly, forcing casual into his voice. Isanaya stepped back and shut the door without answering. My hands didn't shake. That shocked me. I had always imagined betrayal would feel loud, explosive. Instead it felt cold and precise, like my body had decided emotions would only slow me down. I slid the privacy latch on the outside of the door, an old lock we installed years ago when our nephew was little and liked to wander. Then I turned to the deadbolt. Click, click. The silence afterward was thick, heavy, the kind that presses against your ears. Then Mark's voice rose sharp and angry. "What the hell are you doing?" I didn't respond. I walked back to the kitchen, set my grocery bags on the counter like nothing had happened, and picked up my phone. I scrolled once more to the number and pressed call. That was when the pounding started again. The door shook under his shoulder. Inside, water sloshed violently. Then my sister's voice cut through the steam, panicked and desperate. Stop, she's right there. Open this door." My husband barked again. I stood there, phone in hand, listening, calm in a way that felt almost frightening. And that was the moment I knew whatever I thought my life was before I walked through that front door was already over. The phone went silent in my hand after I ended the call with Evan. For a moment, the house felt suspended in time, like everything was waiting for something else to happen before it dared move again. Then the pounding on the bathroom door came. Back, harder, louder, angrier. Mark slammed his shoulder into it from the inside. The frame rattled. The hinges screamed. "Open this door," he shouted. "You're acting crazy." His voice echoed down the hallway, filling the house like smoke. I didn't answer. I leaned my shoulder against the wall instead, close enough to feel the vibration every time he hit the door. From inside, Tessa's voice followed, sharp and frantic, stripped of the softness she'd used only minutes earlier. "You can't do this," she yelled. "This is insane. Let us out right now." I closed my eyes for a second and listened to them argue with each other through the door. Their whispers turned into hisses, rushed and ugly. "Get dressed," Mark snapped at her. "Why did you even come home?" She shot back. "Jill, shut up." The words floated through the steam and settled into me like weights. These weren't people who had made a mistake. These were people scrambling because they'd been caught. I finally spoke, keeping my voice steady. I called Evan. "You have 5 minutes." The noise stopped instantly. Not because Mark felt remorse, because Mark understood leverage. He wasn't afraid of me. He was afraid of witnesses. He was afraid of daylight. Minutes stretched long and heavy. I paced the kitchen slowly, phone still in my hand, my mind strangely clear. I noticed stupid details I'd never remember otherwise. The hum of the refrigerator, the way the grocery receipt peeked out of the bag, the faint ticking of the clock over the sink. My body was functioning like it had switched into survival mode. Then I heard it, gravel crunching in the driveway. A car door slammed. Then another, footsteps rushed up, the porch steps, fast and uneven, like someone running out of air. A knock followed one hard, a solid knock that didn't ask permission. I walked to the door and opened it. Evans stood there, face pale, eyes wide but focused, his jaw clenched so tightly I could see the muscles jumping. Beside him stood Deputy Randall, his cousin, still in uniform, his expression alert and unreadable. Evan didn't look at me at first. His eyes went straight down the hallway, as if he could see through the walls. "Is it locked?" he asked. I nodded once. He stepped past me without another word. The hallway felt narrower as we moved down it. The bathroom door stood at the end, like a sealed vault, steam still leaking out around the edges. Evans stopped, inches from it. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't knock. Double quotes Tessa. He said quietly. His voice was low, steady, and terrifying in its calm. "Open the door." "Oh, I will." Inside, frantic movement exploded. Water sloshed again. Fabric rustled. Mark's voice dropped into a sharp whisper. "Get dressed. Now." Tessa's voice trembled. "Evan, please." Deputy Randall stepped closer. "Ma'am, open the door." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the lock on the inside clicked. The knob turned slowly. The door cracked open, and humid air poured into the hallway. Heavy and sour. Mark stepped out first. He was wearing my robe. His hair was damp, his face already rearranging itself into something that resembled innocence. His eyes flicked from Evan to the deputy and back again, measuring dot behind him. Tessa stood wrapped in my towel, clutching it to her bare shoulders like armor. Her mascara was smeared, her face flushed, like she'd tried to cry on command and failed. Evan stared at them like his brain couldn't accept the image in front of him. "This isn't what it looks like," Mark said, forcing a laugh that fell flat the moment it left his mouth. Evan didn't look at him. He looked at Tessa. Tummy said. Her lips trembled. She glanced at me once, like she expected me to rescue her. Then she looked back at Evan. "It was stupid," she whispered. Evan's voice cracked. "Stupid is forgetting milk. This is a bathtub." Mark stepped forward, palms out. "Everyone needs to calm down." Deputy Randall's tone was even. "Sir, keep your hands where I can see them." I finally spoke. My voice sounded distant, even to me. "Out, both of you." Mark turned toward me offended. "You can't kick me out of my own house." Evan snapped his head toward him. "Don't say only she's not standing right here." Deputy Randall lifted his phone and began documenting the open bathroom door, the steam, the robe, the towel, the times, ordinary details that become priceless when people start lying. Evan swallowed hard and looked back at Tessa. "How long?" She shook her head, crying harder. "Evan, please, how long?" he repeated. Mark tried to interrupt. "This is between me and my wife." Evan's eyes cut through him. "No, it's between you and every person you decided didn't matter." Tessa's shoulders collapsed. "Since spring," she whispered. Spring. Word landed heavy. Months of family dinners, holidays, smiles across tables, Tessa kissing Evan's cheek while Mark carved the roast like a decent man. Something inside me went quiet, like my heart locked itself away so I could keep standing. Evan took a shaky breath. "Pack a bag," he said. "You're not coming home tonight." Deputy Randall turned slightly toward Mark. "Sir, you're leaving the residence. Gather essentials only." Mark opened his mouth to argue, then closed it when the deputy's hand rested near his radio. Bach turned to me then, his voice dropping into that familiar tone, the one he used when he wanted control. "We can handle this privately," he said. "No lawyers." My phone buzzed in my hand. One sharp notification, a bank transfer, pending. Mark's eyes flicked to my screen, and the smallest smile touched his mouth, like he'd been waiting for that moment. "Listen carefully," he said. "Softly. Cheating doesn't mean you get the house. This is a no-fault stay. Half is half, and if you try to ruin me, I'll make sure you walk away with nothing." Deputy Randall's eyes narrowed. "Sir, that's enough." But Mark kept going, because fear had always worked for him. "I know where every dollar is," he said. "I know what you can prove, and I know what you can't." Evan's hands curled into fists, then loosened as he forced himself to breathe. "You're still lying," Evan whispered. "I'm protecting myself," Mark replied. And in that moment, standing in my own hallway, with steam still curling around our feet, I understood something with icy clarity. The bathtub was only the beginning. The real fight hadn't even started yet. Mark left that night with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and a look on his face that tried to pass for wounded dignity but couldn't fully hide the smirk underneath. It was the expression of a man who still believed he was smarter than everyone else in the room. Tessa followed behind him, wrapped in Evan's jacket, sobbing loudly, clinging to it like she was the one who had been torn apart. When the front door finally shut, the sound echoed through the house in a way that didn't feel dramatic. It felt hollow. The house went quiet, not peaceful, not calm, empty, like someone had scooped the air out of it and left me sitting in the middle of the silence. I stood there for a long moment, then walked into the kitchen and sat down at the table. My phone was still in my hand. The bank notification was still glowing on the screen. The transfer Mark had tried to make was pending, frozen in that small window of time between attempt and success. I took screenshots, every screen, every timestamp, every account number. I didn't feel clever doing it. I felt steady, like my body understood this was no longer about emotions, it was about protection. Evan stood in the doorway, his face drained, his shoulders sagging as if the weight of the last few hours had finally settled onto him. "I'm filing," he said quietly. "Tomorrow?" "I am too," I answered. We didn't hug, we didn't comfort each other, we just nodded. Two people standing in the wreckage of choices we hadn't made. The next morning, I sat in a small brick office near the courthouse, the kind of place with faded certificates on the wall and a coffee pot that tasted like it had been brewing since the late 80s. The woman across from me had silver hair pulled back tight, reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. Her name was Susan Caldwell. She didn't ask for drama. She asked for facts, joint accounts, yes, retirement, his 401k, my IRA, mortgage, both names, insurance, beneficiaries. I think I'm still listed. Susan nodded once. We'll confirm, and we'll move carefully. I swallowed. He said cheating doesn't matter, that it's a no-fault state. In many places, he's right, she said calmly. The affair doesn't win a divorce, but money does. And behavior around money absolutely does. I slid my phone across the desk. She studied the screenshots, then looked up at me. He tried to drain the account while he was still wet from the bathtub. I let out a breath that almost turned into a laugh, but that sounds insane when you say it like that. People are predictable under pressure, she replied. They reach for the same weapons they always used. She leaned forward. Here's what you do. You open a new account in your name only. Your paycheck goes there. You do not empty the joint account. You do not get revenge. You protect your half, and you document everything he tries. By noon, my phone was buzzing non-stop. Tessa's mother was calling relatives. Church friends I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had opinions. You don't want to destroy your marriage over a mistake, my aunt said gently. A mistake, I repeated, feeling the word scrape against my throat. Susan looked at me over her glasses when I told her. They'll pressure you to be nice, she said. Nice keeps everyone comfortable, but comfort isn't peace. That afternoon, Mark showed up at the house holding roses like he was auditioning for a redemption arc. His voice was soft. Careful, can we talk? I let him see me glance at my phone, where Deputy Randall's number still sat near the top. The roses dipped slightly. So that's what this is, Mark said. You're making me the villain. You did that yourself, I replied. We can split things quietly, he said. No lawyers. Like you quietly moved our money. His expression hardened. I was protecting myself. No, I said. You were protecting your exit. 2 days later, Susan filed. Temporary orders were scheduled. Mediation was set. At her direction, I agreed to terms that looked like surrender on paper. Mark could keep the truck, the living room furniture, temporary access to certain funds under court oversight. When Mark read it, he grinned. He didn't notice the quiet line requiring full financial disclosure. The mediation room was cold and plain. A long table, a worn American flag, a retired judge named Harlan, quiet-eyed and observant. Susie laid out documents slowly. Transfers, spending, jewelry receipts, hotel charges, ATM withdrawals. Mark scoffed. You've been stalking me. These are joint accounts, Susan replied. I'm documenting. Then came the secret credit card, the post office box. The attempt to change beneficiaries. That was when Mark's face changed. Not anger, fear. Judge Holland didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Exclusive use of the home, financial restraints, reimbursement, attorney fees. In the hallway afterward, Mark leaned close and hissed, You think this makes you powerful? No, I said. It makes me safe. Later, Tessa stood at the end of the courthouse hallway, smaller than I'd ever seen her. She asked if we could talk. In a quiet room with plastic chairs and a box of tissues, she finally told the truth. About the affair, about the money, about the lies she'd let herself believe. I didn't think it would turn into this, she whispered. Turn into what? I asked. Consequences. Evan stepped in and listened. Silent, broken, honest. I didn't forgive her that day. I told her I might consider rebuilding one day, if she stopped lying and took responsibility. When I drove home alone, the house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt mine, and I understood something I wish someone had told me sooner. You don't win by screaming. You don't win by revenge. You win by staying calm long enough to see the truth, then brave enough to act on it. And that was the moment my life finally stopped breaking and started rebuilding.